And the Queen. It's 12:25. It's Anna King here. Hello, good afternoon. BBC Radio Gloucestershire. I'm speaking to Charlie Mitchell from Strategy. She's a mum of three. Her life turned upside down just over a year ago when her son Thomas, who was only 4 at the time and has Down syndrome, was taken to A&E. So something was not quite right with Thomas. He was seemingly poorly, he wasn't walking, something had gone, adrift, but no way did anybody, certainly not Charlie, have any idea that what was to come was to find out that he was extremely ill with leukemia. They were pretty much instantly transferred to Bristol Children's Hospital for treatment, and that's where they stayed, the two of them, for the next 3 months. No visitors allowed because of COVID restrictions, not able to see her other 2 children. So Charlie did what Charlie has felt over the years helps her, which was to start to write. She found a bit of paper, she found a pen, and she sort of started to let things out in a way that hopefully would help her, but inadvertently or maybe deliberately, she ended up helping other parents as well. So you start to write. Was it in there just pouring out? Or yeah, it really was. It really was. I can see.
Absolutely. I mean, there was so much emotion and so many different parts to it, and I at times it felt like it was just massive. There was like waves of emotion, and it would just feel really huge. And so there was loads of stuff to express, and loads of fear, loads of anxiety, loads of grief of just the kind of loss of our lives and. Being in this tiny room, which I found really hard to have no access to the outdoors. I love being in the woods; it's my favourite place, and so to be completely cut off. I would think, I'm sure even prisoners get like an hour a day out, just to be outside and have the sunshine. And I found it very, very hard going, and all of my normal support systems. I couldn't go to a friend's house and have a cup of tea,
and they couldn't
come to me. And so, all of my usual support mechanisms just weren't working. Even trying to have counselling, I just couldn't manage. The nurses were in and out, and he was having observations and medications, and it felt like a busy bus station at times.
Did you sleep on the floor? Where do you sleep?
There is a fold-down bed, which was interesting because it was kind of tucked into a cupboard, and I'm quite tall, and I, if I rolled over, my arm would kind of hit the top of the cupboard, and there was beeping constantly because he was being monitored. So
it's amazing how you do learn to sleep in these circumstances eventually, don't you? Probably out of sheer exhaustion, I guess.
Maybe a couple of hours at a time, but it wasn't really sort of quality sleep. So it was just quite an extreme experience all round, really. So there was definitely plenty of emotion to write about.
I can hear that. Well, what you could have done, what a lot of people might have done, was just, there it was, and then you put it away, and that was the end of that. But actually, it's turned into a beautiful book called Gifts from the Heart of the Storm, illustrated by Matthew Wiggans. So I want to flag up as well because it's gorgeous, the illustrations. It's really a chance to. Will you explain what is the idea of this book then? Who do you aim it at, and why do you feel it's important to have it out there?
So for me, it can be aimed at any parents, but for me, particularly parents with children who experience the world differently, because, those of us who have kids that do have these different experiences have a whole host of emotions that can feel different to parenting a child in a kind of standard way. So for me, it's aimed at those parents to give them the opportunity to reflect on the emotional journey that they might be going on, to look at some of the challenges of that and be real about that, because I really hate this sort of toxic positivity. Let's put a smile on our faces and have a cup of tea. And one of the nurses actually said that to me in hospital, and I was really pleased with myself that I didn't use the cup of tea in anger. Because the last thing I wanted to do was be positive. The last thing I wanted to do was put a smile on my face. My son was in a critically ill condition, and I needed to let those emotions out. This was my feeling about it.
It's the national language of Britain, though, isn't it? Whatever happens, right, let's get a cup of tea. Let's put the kettle on. Because when all else fails, we don't know what else to do or say. So, let's put the kettle on.
And it doesn't always work, when you have these massive emotions. So I wanted there to be a space for parents to be able to express them, but also to realise that once we can express some of these emotions, we can connect with the hope, we can connect with the gifts, we can connect with the positivity. once we've had that space for the challenge. Because what I found was through this writing that I could be more present for Thomas, and I could actually sit with him, and rather than spending all of my time thinking I need to run away as quickly as possible and I don't care where, I just need to run out of the room and keep running because this situation is horrific. That was kind of where I started from. I got to the point where I was like, actually, I want to sit with him and hold his hand, and I want to stroke him, and I want to look into his eyes and just be present and be here with him. And there were beautiful moments. There was one time he just moved his leg ever so slightly closer to me because he was really enjoying me stroking his leg at that point. And if my mental chatter had still been about, I need to run away and leave this room, I might not have noticed that inch that he moved his leg, and I might not have been able to just stroke him. And I could have missed that beautiful opportunity. So by being present for the challenge, it gave me the opportunity to be present for the beautiful moments, for the tiny, tiny milestones that we had, and to be able to really treasure those moments, however stuff unfolded for him.
How did it unfold?
So it went to a pretty difficult place, and we had to get permission from Great Ormond Street to take a different treatment plan because the treatment plan that he was on wasn't working. The next step would have been to increase the chemotherapy, and his body wasn't coping with it. There's a really good success rate for curing leukemia when children respond to the treatment, and Thomas wasn't, and that was very hard to face. But we got permission from Great Ormond Street for a different treatment plan, and it was incredible. And within a matter of weeks, he started to turn around and he started to make progress and he started to heal. And I started to get my Thomas back. It was just the most incredible experience. And at the point in the treatment that we're at now, we're still awaiting some news about the next steps. So I'm still in a bit of a storm as we speak, but he is in a brilliant place. He's at school. He's able to have a fairly normal life, despite still having, an NG tube. He's nose tube fed, nasal gastric tube fed, and has chemo every day and a whole host of other medicines. But he's a joy, a delight. He's a force to be reckoned with. He wakes up dancing and singing and laughing and just wanting to play. So,
wow.
That cheeky 5-year-old is very much back in the room, which is just incredible.
And lovely for you to see him back in normal life and not in that room in lockdown with you.
Yeah.
What about reuniting with your other two children? That must have been quite an event as well, wasn't it, eventually, after all that time?
It was a real event, yeah. It was absolutely amazing, and it was a real delight. We had a bit of a challenge because Thomas became unwell for a second time in November, and so the children the two eldest went up to York in December to stay with their dad because Thomas was back in hospital a lot, and unfortunately they've been back up in York since then. So we are yet to get the support that we need for them to be able to return back to Stroud, and it's 10 months now that we have been apart in total in the last year, which is totally heartbreaking and makes an extreme situation really difficult, really much harder for all of us. And we, I also noticed that we're in a context with things like Ukraine.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. I was only speaking a couple of hours ago to a family in Cheltenham, and I was just thinking of the different parallels, but parallels of they've got, they're at that point, these grandparents are picking up one of their two grandchildren and bringing back from Poland today. Yeah. But the other grandchildren too young to leave the mum and the dad. The dad can't leave because they're not allowed to leave Ukraine. The wife won't leave him. I mean, it's that whole thing about families wanting to be united, but being, through circumstances, pulling them apart is very relevant, I think, today.
Absolutely. And, I know they've got a roof over their head. I know they're safe, and those things are very, very important. And I look forward very much to having the support available so that they can return home. While we were in hospital, my eldest, who has autism, also developed anorexia, so they need their own support system, and obviously Thomas still needs a lot of support, so that's what we're hoping for.
Well, obviously I wish you well with that, and respect you for still being upright, frankly, in all of these things that are going on in your life. It's a beautiful book. It's called Gifts from the Heart of the Storm by Charlie Mitchell, and it's illustrated by Matthew Wiggans. And it's one of those books where you can dip in and out, which I think is also lovely in these times when perhaps concentration is not as it normally is. And obviously based on Charlie's experiences and the wisdom and the knowledge that comes out of very difficult circumstances. I wish you all the best for you and all of the family. And presumably people can get this from anywhere they normally buy their books. Is that right?
Yeah, we're doing a launch on Sunday. So you can pre-order it on Amazon, and you can pre-order it on my website as well, starseedparenting.org. I've got some funding through Gloucestershire Carers Legacy Fund to create an interactive version of the book, and that's going to be available online from Sunday.
Brilliant.
And it's great. I mean, I love reading books. That's really helpful. But for me, I wanted parents to have an opportunity to go on a bit of a healing journey and find ways of taking the good bits from the book and being able to integrate it into their own life. So the interactive version of the book is available completely free, available to anybody online, and it will take them through the book, and it will also take them through some other activities and exercises to help them to take that healing journey to be able to get to a place of joy even in the difficult times.
A place of joy even in the difficult times. Charlie, it's been lovely to meet you. Thank you very much for coming in today and for taking some time out for me. Starseedparenting.org is Charlie's website. You can find out more there. And the book, as I say, is out in the next couple of days. Gifts from the Heart of the Storm by Charlie Mitchell. And as I say, available shortly.